All right, let's begin our practice today in standing pose. You can take your feet apart, hips width, maybe a little wider, maybe a little closer, wherever you feel the best balancing point and ability to connect to the ball of your foot, the pinky toe of the foot. Spread out your toes and press into that big toe mound, the ball of the foot and the outer pinky toe mound. And then stretch back towards the center of the heel from those 2 points and press down into the center of each heel. Feel your thighs engage, the outer glutes, the glutes engage, and your posture builds from that. So the posture lengthens and spaces out from that foundational strength and connection, pushing down into the floor to get taller. Let the shoulders relax, let your arms relax, and your chest is just gently and very effortlessly with the energy pressing through the shoulder heads. Breathe from your belly in and up, expanding out through your ribs as you breathe in. And one more breath here. I'm going to balance in tree now. Take a few more breaths if you'd like to stay in Tadasana, mountain pose, and just focus on that breath. And when you're ready, we're going to take the right foot up the front of the left leg, sliding the foot up the front, and use your hand to help. Place it on the front area of your thigh, and then turn your heel to face forward, spinning on your heel so your toes point back and down towards the right, or towards your left heel. When you do this, the knee, your right knee is coming out, but not so much that the right hip has to lift in order for it to turn all the way out. So you might have to turn your right knee in a little bit and have more of a closed angle rather than this completely open shape. The right glutes push down, left front hip lifts up, and squeeze from the outer left hip into the right foot. Squeeze from the outer right hip into the right foot, into the left thigh. Hands can be at heart. Gaze down past the bridge of your nose towards the floor. And then if you'd like, hands can reach up. Pressing down into that left foot to get taller in your spine. Squeeze your hips in. Squeeze your 2 front hip bones together and take that chest through your shoulder heads if you're stretching your arms up to the ceiling. Okay, one more inhale. Exhale, slowly take your hands down, push into the heel of your left foot and the big toe mound of the left foot, and then pull the right knee forward and slide your left leg down. Shift your weight from side to side, Tadasana, and just kind of work it out if you need. Let go of that. Tree pose can seem like a very basic pose, but it's a balancing pose and it can be challenging. It's all how you look at it and how you approach it. Okay, from Tadasana, take a few breaths. Again, stretch out through your toes. Big toe mound, pinky toe mound, and push back to the center of the heel from those 2 points, energizing your arches of your feet. Squeeze your thighs up, pull your kneecaps up, and then you feel the outer hips start to work. Tall spine from the pressure and the push of the foot and your foundation. All right, tree pose, Vrikshasana, side 2, Vrikshasana. Left foot's gonna slide up the right leg. I'm gonna use my hand to help once I get it in place in the inner front part of that thigh. I'm gonna turn on the left heel, spinning the toes back. The left knee only opens up as much as you can without lifting the left glutes up. So press down with your left glutes, not tucking your tailbone, just dropping the glutes. Lift the front right hip up, and you can feel the transverse abdominis working the little cross section of core here. Push into the ball of your right foot and the heel of your right foot and squeeze the right thigh. And squeeze in from the outer right hip into the left foot. Hands can be at heart. Squeeze from the outer left hip into the left foot, into the right thigh. And then again here, if you want to reach your arms up, keep your gaze down just to help control the balance. Really push into the center of that right heel and the ball of the right foot. Lift your ribs, draw the belly button in and up, and lift your chest up. Breathe. Good, one more big inhale. Exhale, hands down. Take the left knee forward and slide your left leg down. And again, just pedal out your feet. Tadasana, mountain pose. Okay, I'm gonna take a forward fold next. I'm gonna come into Tadasana, right into the, I'm gonna take my feet a little closer. So right into the Samastitihi, pose of equal balance. You can feel the balance equal on both sides. And then as you inhale, reach up. Exhale, forward bend. Bend the knees to go down, hands down on the floor or blocks. And then take an inhale here and exhale. Straighten the legs, but pull your kneecaps up to straighten your legs. At this point, you may say, okay, my feet are too close together. I need to get them farther apart, and that's fine. But keep pulling the kneecaps up, pressing the front of the femur up and back, and tilting the tailbone up and back over your head, and then forward bend over your legs. Connect to those 3 points in your feet, the big toe mound, the pinky toe, and the center of your heel, and engage those arches. Engage your belly and round your spine here. Okay, lift your head, bend your knees, come up as high as your hips, and then higher with your hips with your head. Hands behind your back, interlace your fingers. Exhale, fold back down, and then pull those kneecaps up by pulling the fronts of your femurs up and back. Drop your arms overhead, Mudrasana here. Keep pushing into the big toe mound of the foot, pinky toe mound, and center heel. Put a bend in your knees if this is way too intense on those hamstrings and you're feeling pain in the sit bones. And that'll help send your hips up a little higher and lengthen your low back out, and also alleviate any low back pull. Hands back down to your sacrum. Just give yourself enough lift so that you can take your hands down and you don't feel jammed. Flatten out those palms, bend your knees as much as you need, and then step back as you pinch the index finger and thumb at the top of your mat. Imagine you can pinch the mat with your index finger and thumb, stepping each foot back, downward facing dog. And to here, lift those hips. The heels, lift them up. They don't need to touch, but you're still imagining that connection through the ball of the foot, the big toe mound, the pinky toe mound, and then the center of your heel is pressing towards the floor from the fronts of your shins. And then lift those knees. Press those thigh bones back. Lift your low back and lengthen. So there is a back bend here. Press your armpits towards the floor. And keep pinching that mat with your index finger and thumb. And press the arms forward as you root through each knuckle. Arches of your feet are engaged. Inhale, knees down. And then take your hands back in under your shoulders so that you can take your knees apart. Flip your feet, big toes touch. Round out your back and press your hips towards your heels. Let your knees open as much as you need in order for this shape to happen. And then your forehead can come to the floor for child's pose. You can also pillow your forehead with your hands. And keep pulling your sit bones back down towards your heels. And zipping the belly button in and up. If your arms are straight forward, again, press the arms forward as you root through your knuckles and press your armpits towards the floor without actually pushing them down. So it's almost like you're pulling the armpits up and pressing them down. When you breathe here and fill your belly up and feel the inflation up into your back ribs, and then exhale, slow it down. All right, push down into the floor with your knees. Inhale, roll up, tabletop pose. Pull your knees back in. Tuck your toe pads under, lift your hips, lift your knees. Adho Mukha Svanasana again. Walk your feet forward, forward bend, exhale. Push down into your heels, lift from your back. Inhale up to stand, sweep your arms up. Look up, open the front of your body. Exhale, hands to heart or side. Samastitihi. All right, I'm gonna step open here, wide leg pose. So my feet are out pretty wide. I've got about 3-4 feet between the 2 feet. Just slightly under the wrist, just a little bit closer than the wrists. Triangle pose, Trikonasana. Keep your right heel down, lift your toes, and turn the foot 90 degrees out. Keep your left heel down, lift your toes. You may have to kind of shift back and turn the left toes in about 30 degrees or so. Left hip points in the same direction as your left toes. Right hip in the same direction as your right toes. The knees are in the middle of that line. Inhale, open your arms, and exhale, hand to the shin. Trikonasana, left hand up to the ceiling. This is not a twist open in the hips. This is a twist open in your core. Keep that left hip pointing in the line of your second toe of the left foot, and keep opening your left side as an opposition to that left hip twisting down. Your left ribs twist open. You feel the stretch along the left side. Inner right knee is opening up behind you, so spiraling outward. Push into the ball of your right foot, pinky toe mound of the right foot, and the big toe mound, and the center of the right heel, and lift up the arches. Squeeze your right thigh to pull your right kneecap up. Keep pushing back through your left heel. Drive down into that left heel and press or pull the left kneecap up by squeezing your left thigh. And then bend your right knee to your arm and look down. So the right hip stays under, pull it up, pull your belly up, push into the heel, pull up here. Bend the right knee forward, press back with your left heel, and then circle the left arm over, then open the ribs. And keep the right hip lifting in and up. Look up to your left fingertips, stretch open. Lengthen the right side so it doesn't cramp up. Inhale, come to stand, straighten the right leg, and then keep your right heel down, turn the right toes. Keep the left heel down, turn your left toes, and then angle the right toes in. Open your arms. The hips, again, are in line with the respective toes. Zip the belly, squeeze your glutes, especially the right. Exhale, left hand down, right hand up. Allow your hips to move as a result of triangle. Don't move your hips in order to get into triangle. Again, the right hip is opposing this right side. So the right hip going that way towards the right toe line. And then the right waist opening, right ribs opening. You feel that nice stretch down into the quadratus lumborum. Squeeze the left kneecap up. Press into the ball of the foot, heel of the foot. Squeeze the left thigh and roll the left kneecap out towards the pinky toe side of your leg. Look up to your right hand if balance will provide that. Gaze up if it'll allow. And then really open long towards the front, towards your left toes with your torso. Keep squeezing your right thigh. And then push back through that right heel. Look down to your left foot. Watch your knee bend into your arm. Pull that left sit bone and thigh under. So the left hamstrings pull under and up. So you feel a squeeze in the inner hip. The front hip is working the hip flexors. Push back through your right heel. Squeeze your right thigh. Right arm overhead and watch your fingertips stretch. Rolling under your arm and looking up. Lengthen your left side, bend your left knee forward more. Push back with your right foot more. Squeeze your right thigh. Inhale, come up. Straighten that left leg and start to turn your toes in. Let's shorten the stance a little bit. Move it around if you feel any tightness or crampy. And then we're going to turn this into pyramid. So I'm going to turn both sets of toes to point straight out. Right toes, 90 degrees. Left toes, a little bit more than 30, more like 45. Heels are lined up. And here you might want your blocks. We're going to take this into pyramid, a little stretch. So I'm going to just have my hands on my hips. I'm going to squeeze the right thigh up so that it's not dropping back, the knee isn't dropping back. It's almost like I'm kicking my right thigh bone forward, but not letting it bend, not letting the knee bend. Drive back through that left heel, and then feel the left glutes engage to extend the left hip, and then you just get taller. So I was kind of here, and then I squeeze that left heel back down to the floor, squeeze my left glutes, push both hips up evenly, 2 hips squeeze together, right thigh is strong, push down into both feet, those 3 points, then forward bend. And exhale. And again, let your hips move as a result of the pose, not moving them to get into it. You can take your hands to the blocks here or hands to the floor. And keep pressing through both feet. And we're not going to worry about where the hips are, if they're lined up, if they're squared off, but I am going to take this left foot back a little farther. And then push my right hip up to the ceiling. From the heel of my right foot, I drive the back of that right hip up. Bend your right knee. Inhale, press down into the right shin, right heel. Reach your arms up, inhale. And exhale, hands to heart, straighten your right leg. Turn your toes, and we'll switch sides. Left toes are going to angle out 90 degrees, so they're pointing straight to the end of the mat. And the right heel is the farthest point behind you. Squeeze that left thigh, pull it up, push back through your right heel, squeeze those glutes and feel yourself lengthen out here and get taller. Push down evenly into both feet, pull that left knee up so it's not popping back. And then extend long over your thigh with your spine, so your spine is an extension. And then your hands can come down to the floor, a couple blocks. You might feel the hips move. It's fine, we're not gonna force them. But I want you to keep pulling the weight out of your hips with your core and your back muscles so that your hips then can move with freedom where they need to be in this pose. Push down evenly into both feet. And again, if you need a little bit more space, take the foot back a little farther. Lift that left hip up to the ceiling. And do that by driving down into the right foot. Keep your chest open so you can breathe up into the tips of your lungs. So we're not collapsing the collarbones down into the lungs. Squeeze your right thigh, squeeze your left thigh. Right shin is working, front of the right shin muscle is working. Okay, bend your left knee, drive down into that left heel. Inhale, roll yourself up, big stretch up. Exhale, hands to heart, straighten your leg, and turn your toes in. Step forward to the top of your mat, Samastitihi. Take your time here to find your balance. Push down into your heels, spread out your toes. Squeeze your thighs up, and then feel those glutes work. Inhale, reach up from your heels, your arms press up. Exhale, forward bend if you need a bend in the knees. Uttanasana. Bend your knees as much as you need in order to get your hands set up for downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Pinch the mat with your index finger and thumb. Step one foot back at the same, or then the second foot back. And then heels can lift your hips, lift your thigh bones. Space out your ribs on the front and the back of your body. And then feel the front ribs space out a little bit more, not much. You can take your left knee down here or keep your left leg straight and pull your right knee in so you can step up to the top of your mat. Connect to the ball of the foot, big toe, pinky toe, and the center of your heel, and then turn that left heel down at a slight angle. And as that left heel turns down, stretch the left pinky toe away, squeeze your left thigh, and push the left hip forward. That bends your right knee forward. Use the front right hip muscles. Inhale, warrior one. The left heel is down and back, driving away. Right heel is straight down, knee driving forward. Inhale, reach your arms. Let your left hip point in the same direction as your left second toe. Lift your chest, warrior one. You can look up if you'd like. Keep pushing your right foot into the floor and almost like you can press the mat away. And same thing with your left foot, you're driving it back so the hips are not squared off here. Your inner right thigh is long and going straight forward. Outer right hip is just engaged enough to not let that right knee fall in. So it's not externally rotating and it's not abducting your leg. It's just keeping it straight forward. Take your hands to your heart without moving your feet. Take your arms now and take your fingertips to your shoulders, lift your elbows, and then simply turn from the top ribs so your elbows point in opposite directions. My chest is still pointing forward in line with my belly button. Then my arms open up from the shoulders. So my right arm and right knee move forward. Left heel and left arm move backward. Chest and belly button lift up, and the chest presses up to the ceiling. Let the chest lift up to take some weight out of that right thigh. Straighten your right leg. Inhale, zip your hips in. Exhale, right hand to the right shin. Lengthen your right side out, Trikonasana. Inhale, left hand up. And then bend your right knee. Take your left hand to your low back or hand to hip. You can use a block here. Press up to your left big toe. Pull your left foot in and then up as you push your right leg to straight. Press down into your right heel, big toe and pinky toe mound. And then try to not let your right hip turn open. Keep the right hip pointing in the same direction as your right toes. Left toes turn out, and then your left heel and your left sit bone line up, but your left hip lifts up. So you're not turning it open, you're lifting it up. Look down to the floor, Ardha Chandrasana, half moon. Zip your belly button in and turn your right ribs down to the floor and keep looking down to the floor. Keep the right heel screwing into the ground and keep the right outer hip working. You are trying to externally rotate your thigh here without actual movement. It's energetic. Bend your right knee, left foot down to your mat next to your right foot, Uttanasana. Exhale. Bend your knees as much as you need. Pinch the mat with index finger and thumb. Root through knuckles, 1 foot, 2nd foot. Step back, down dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Okay, so again, you can take right knee down and step the left foot forward, or you can keep the right leg straight. Once you get your left foot up, the right heel turns down at an angle. Drive it away. So the left knee pushes forward, the right heel pushes back. Pull the belly up, pull your sit bones under your body so that eventually your shoulders line up over the tops of your hips. And then again, you're turning your right ribs forward, not the right hip, but you are pushing the right heel back. So there's an internal rotation of the thigh, not of the hip. Let it open. Then the work here is in the ribs. You feel that nice stretch right there. Inhale, reach your arms up, Virabhadrasana A. You can look up. Press that mat away with both feet. Hands down. Take your fingertips to your shoulders. Just from the top ribs, turn open, not your hips. And then you can feel where the shoulders stop turning, or where the ribs, the front armpit stops turning, but my elbow is pointing back. So I'm not going like this. So the armpit is still pointing that way. And then my hands come out from there. Push down into your feet again. Lift that chest up from the low belly to give the left leg a break. Squeeze your upper back muscles without squeezing your shoulder blades any closer together. Stretch out through your fingers. They stretch away from each other. Straighten your left leg, inhale. Exhale, Trikonasana. Let the shape open. Inhale, reach your arm. Maybe your gaze. Bend your left knee, right hand to hip or on your low back. Pull your right foot forward till your weight is all in your left leg. Then lift the outer right ankle and hip. Then press the left leg to straight. So I like my hand on my back so that it keeps my right shoulder opening, but I can also feel my glutes working. And sometimes you don't know if they're working until you can like get handsy. Okay, I gotta get this block out of the way. Here we go. Turn your left ribs through. Keep the left toes pointing straight forward. And keep the gaze down for now. It's just a shape. We don't need to look up to the ceiling quite yet. You can if you want. But I don't want, so I'm not going to. Keep driving that left knee forward so you're not hyperextending, so you're not bending it, but you're pushing it forward from the back of the left knee pit. Open your left armpit, ribs through. Right leg can be higher than your hip and your head, especially if your hand's flat on the floor. So it's a straight line here, not like this. All right, hand down, foot down, exhale, forward bend. Bend your knees, plant your palms, step back just so you can take your knees down under your front hip bones, and then take your knees together, flip the tops of your feet to the floor. And you might want to block here under your sit bones. I'm just going to have both blocks because I know I'm going to use them here in a minute. But your feet are on the outside of the blocks. You can squeeze the block with your ankles. You can have 2 blocks if you need. Separate the pinky toes away from the rest of the feet and just give them a little space out. You could even dig in with your knuckles here, massage your feet while you find the sit bones dropping down into the block. Go lift your chest and feel the weight of your sit bones drop down into the block, and even the tops of the femurs drop back in. Take your hands behind in Yoga Mudrasana, and then you're going to take your left hand over to the right side, push your left hand forward with your right arm and squeeze your elbows toward each other, and push into the sit bones on the block. You can play with head movements if you want, right ear to right shoulder. Make sure your ribs are not flaring out and you're pushing back into your left forearm with your back muscles and back rib section. Okay, release that. Inhale, stretch your arms out. Exhale, take your hands to the left side and hook, push your right hand forward with your left arm. Squeeze your elbows in toward each other, and again, push into your right forearm with your back rib section. Keep pushing down into the block with your heels. Okay, release that. Inhale, stretch back. Exhale, let go of the interlacing. 2 blocks here, and you can take the block out from under your sit bones. You don't need to be on the floor at this point. We're gonna use the blocks behind for hands, and mine are gonna come right in line with my toes. You can have these blocks on any height that you like. I'm gonna let my knees open up a little bit as I lift my hips and press forward into Camel Virasana. The hips over the knees don't need to be a thing. Instead, I want you to think hips up towards the ceiling. And if you can walk your blocks forward a little bit more and take them higher, you can take the hips up a little higher, but the thigh bones go forward, not your hip bones. The hip bones up, thigh bones forward. Let your head move back and keep your feet flat. So try not to tuck your toes under. It kind of ruins the extension in your hips. If you want your hands on your heels, palms on the heels, fingers to the arches, press your chest up, hips up, thighs forward. Your hips can be back here, right? So if you're on your heels, take your hips back. To come out of it though, look to your front, chest, chin to chest, and then lower the hips down. Come right over into hands and knees. Cross your ankles, sit back. 2 blocks for your feet. Easy seated pose, cross your ankles. Block here, block here. Soles of your feet are on the blocks. The blocks don't need to be pointing in the same direction. They're just supporting your feet. Knees are on the block, or outer thighs are on the blocks, outer calves. Inhale here. If you need a blanket to sit on to lift your hips, if you feel like your knees are way up here, you might want to sit on a blanket or a small cushion. And then push your feet into the blocks without moving them. So keep the balls of your feet pushing into the blocks. We don't want to move them away. But just like in our standing pose, the big toe mound behind the ball of the foot behind the big toe mound and the pinky toe mound both press in, then your heels, the center heel. Forward bend, exhale. Keep pushing into the block with those 3 points of your feet. Keep your chest going through your shoulders so you don't need to forward fold to the point of collapse in your chest. In fact, I like to use my elbows or my backs of my arms, the triceps on my knees to pull my chest through. And then take your left hand over to the block underneath your right leg, elbow on the floor, right hand on your thigh, and twist. And you can look over or you can look down. Untwist, inhale, exhale, fold. Connect to the block with those 3 points of your feet. Right elbow on the floor. Grab the block with your right fingers, the block under your left leg. Left hand gently on your left thigh pressing so that you can open up into a twist. Again, you can just look back towards your left elbow over your left shoulder, or you can look down towards the floor. Keep those points of contact on the block with your feet. Think about your chest moving through your shoulders. So keep the chest open. And then relax your toes. You can still push into those 3 points without frying out your toe, like lifting them up. That's kind of what I was doing. Inhale, untwist. Exhale, fold. And then inhale up to seated. Find the weight comfortably in your sit bones. All right, we're going to move into a breathing practice. So you can stay here with your blocks under your feet, or you can come to an easy seated position with a block under your sit bones, so that here your hips are elevated higher than your knees, allowing the femurs to roll open a little bit more and allowing for more low back length and front body length. Find your comfortable seat and take your time. All right, so we're going to use the singing bowls for our breathing practice. The breath is simply going to be normal breath. If you want ujjayi, you're welcome to use ujjayi in the back of your throat, that little constriction. But I'm going to use the solar plexus chakra singing bowl and the heart chakra singing bowl. And when you hear the solar plexus chime, you'll inhale. And when you hear the heart chakra chime, you'll exhale. And the reason I'm using these two is the diaphragm expands down into the solar plexus and around the solar plexus. It takes up that space when we inhale. And the heart chakra, when you exhale, you feel that release of energy, that expansion, and the after effects of the exhale. So you can kind of feel on the inhale, there's a pushing down and a rising up to the heart from the solar plexus. And on the exhale, you feel there's a drawing up of the diaphragm and a dropping down of pressure from the heart to the solar plexus. So I just want you to feel that path that we're creating with the sounds. And then additionally, the spaces between the breath. So I'll make the spaces between the chimes a little longer as we breathe so that you can start to incorporate the kumbhaka, which is the breath retention. And it's not a pressurized hold. It's just a stillness between breaths. So a stillness and space, quiet, non-effort, but the space is being filled up with any extra breath that's coming in passively. So it's not a bearing down and it's not a pressurized seal. It's just a pause in active breathing so that the breath cycle can finish before the next one begins. All right, so I'm going to start with the solar plexus chime in your inhale. Let's just take a breath here. Inhale and exhale. All right, inhale. And exhale. breath just return back to its natural pace here. Noticing if there's any automatic pause between each breath, that now it's just become kind of a habit. So it doesn't have to be prolonged, it's just a beat of silence, a bit to hold, just a beat to hold that energy and beauty of the breath in that silent moment. Take as long as you'd like to sit here. If you'd like to lie back and take Shavasana, you can start to lower down slowly to the floor and end in a restorative posture that is relaxing for you and gives you a moment just to focus on the breath. As always, when you end your practice, end with the biggest bow of gratitude towards yourself. Thanks for all that you do here and everywhere.